So, let's talk about the book of Genesis. It kicks off the entire Bible with what is, arguably the most famous story ever told, the creation of the world. But here's the thing. What if the story you think you know isn't the whole story? What if it holds a fascinating puzzle that scholars are still debating today?
Yeah, you know the one. It's majestic, super orderly. Day 1, let there be light. Day 2, the sky. Day 3, land and plants, and so on. God just speaks, and bam, it happens. It's this grand cosmic account of an all-powerful creator bringing order out of chaos. This is definitely the story most of us remember from Sunday school.
And when I say different, I mean completely different. This isn't just a simple retelling. We're talking about a separate account with a different order of events, a totally different writing style, and, get this, a very different portrait of God himself. So what on earth is going on here? And this brings us right to the heart of our explainer. The very start of the Bible doesn't give us one but two distinct and, in a lot of ways, contradictory stories of creation just sitting there, right next to each other.
Okay, so just look at this. This slide lays out the puzzle perfectly. In Genesis 1, plants show up on day 3, way before humans make an appearance on day 6. But then you jump to Genesis 2, and whoa, man is formed first from a totally dry earth, and then God plants a garden for him. In the first story, animals come before people. In the second, they're made after man as potential partners for him. The whole sequence is just completely flipped on its head.
And the differences are so much deeper than just the timeline. The God of Genesis 1 is like a cosmic king, creating everything with a simple command. He's kind of distant, transcendent, but the God of Genesis 2, as this incredible painting by William Blake captures so well, gets his hands dirty. He physically sculpts man from the dust, he breathes life into his nostrils, he plants a garden. He's not just transcendent, he's immanent, he's personal, he's right there in the thick of it.
So why? Why are these two really different stories here?
Well, to answer that, we have to zoom out. We need to understand the world they were written in, the ancient Near East. You see, the Genesis stories didn't just pop out of nowhere. The ancient Israelites were living among these huge, powerful empires like Babylon and Egypt, and each one of them had their own epic stories about how the world began. The biblical authors, they knew these stories, and they were writing in dialogue with them, and pretty often in direct protest against them.
And the most famous of these, the real blockbuster creation story of the day, was the Babylonian epic called the Enuma Elish. It was recited at all the big festivals, and its vision of the world, well, it could not be more different from what we find in Genesis. The key thing to understand here is that for the Babylonians, the universe is born from violence. Creation is literally an act of war. The world is made from the carcass of a dead goddess, and humanity is created from the blood of another defeated god, for one pretty grim purpose, to be the slaves of the gods. Okay, so with that as the backdrop, you start to see what's going on. When you put Genesis 1 right next to the Enuma Elish, you realize it's not just another story. It's a radical theological protest. It's what some scholars call the Hebrew Revolution. The author of Genesis 1 is deliberately pushing back against that dominant worldview. They're taking all the familiar pieces of ancient creation myths, the primordial chaos, the separating of the waters, the 7-part structure, and they're completely flipping them on their head to make a revolutionary new claim about who God is, what the world is, and what our place in it is. And this table just lays it all out so clearly. Instead of a whole pantheon of warring gods, Genesis says there is one, sovereign God. Instead of a violent cosmic battle, creation is peaceful, orderly, done through speech. And here's the biggest one. Humanity isn't created from a dead God to be slaves. No, we are made in the very image of the living God and given this incredible responsibility over creation. This is a profound, absolutely revolutionary statement about human dignity. This shift to monotheism was just groundbreaking. In most polytheistic views, the gods themselves were products of nature. But Genesis flips the script completely. It says God is supreme, he exists before nature, and he creates it by his will. The great divide isn't between nature and everything else, it's between the one creator and all of his creation.
Okay, so that makes a ton of sense. Genesis 1 is a powerful argument against Babylonian mythology. Got it. But that still leaves our original question hanging, right? Why are there two contradictory stories inside the Bible itself? So let's zoom back in and really compare them. These two accounts don't just use different names for God.
Elohim, which is a more general title in the first story, and the personal name YHW in the second, they also present two fundamentally different sides of God's character. On one hand, you have the majestic, transcendent king of the cosmos. And on the other, you have this intimate, personal craftsman who literally walks and talks with his creation. And there's a word for this hands-on portrayal of God in the second story. It's called anthropomorphism. It's the author's way of describing God in these relatable, human-like terms, molding, planting, building, to really emphasize a personal, relational connection that is totally absent from the cosmic scale of Genesis 1. The author of the second story is also a master of literary craft. They use this incredibly clever wordplay in the original Hebrew to make theological points. So man, Adam, is intimately connected to the ground he was formed from, the Adamah. And woman, Isha, is defined in her relationship to the man, Ish, from whom she was built. It's this beautiful, poetic way of linking humanity to the earth and to each other. Which brings us to the ultimate question, the million-dollar question. If these stories are so different, if they contradict each other in the order of creation and present such different portraits of God and humanity, why in the world would the ancient editors of the Bible keep both? Why stick them right next to each other at the very beginning? Well, the answer from many modern scholars, like Stephen DiMattei, is that trying to smash them together into one single, harmonized story totally misses the point. The differences aren't a mistake that needs to be fixed. They are a feature that needs to be understood. The editors kept both because each story offers a unique and absolutely essential perspective. So let's look at a couple of really cool theories as to why. The first one starts with a hidden clue, a kind of linguistic Easter egg embedded in the number 7, which is so central to that first creation story. Okay, check this out. The Hebrew word for 7 is Shabbat, and it shares the exact same root as the Hebrew word for oath. In the ancient world, swearing an oath wasn't just making a promise, it was how you made a covenant, how you created a family bond. So when God creates the world in 7 days, he isn't just marking time on a calendar, he is symbolically swearing a covenant oath with his creation. He's making it his family. The story isn't just about how the world was made, it's a statement that it was made as a family. All right, theory number 2 looks at the literary structure of the entire book of Genesis. The whole book is organized by this recurring Hebrew phrase, toledot, which basically means these are the generations of, or these are the developments of. It always acts like a chapter heading for what comes next. And guess where the very first toledotim heading appears? Right between our two stories, at Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. This suggests that Genesis 1 is acting like a grand cosmic prologue. As the scholar Richard Middleton puts it, Genesis 1 is God's call to the cosmos. And Genesis 2 begins the story of humanity's response. It's the start of the story of what developed on Earth after that perfect initial creation. So in the end, by keeping both of these accounts, the Bible gives us this richer, more complex picture. We get the transcendent God of the cosmos and the eminent God who walks in the garden. We get to see creation as a grand temple and as an intimate family home. So maybe the point was never to give us a scientific report on how the world began, but to offer two profound, complementary meditations on why it exists and what our place in it is really all about.